If you can truly impress me, I'll adopt you. The crowd chuckled as if it were a joke. But to the little girl those words were not a game. He wore success like armor. Always amused by the desperation of those beneath him. He had only meant to tease her. To entertain his guests with a show of cruelty. Disguised as humor. But Anna didn't see it that way. For her it was a chance. As her small hands hovered above the keys, she remembered the countless nights she had spent practicing with nothing but moonlight to guide her. She remembered how the nuns at the orphanage would sometimes hush her because she played too late. But she couldn't stop. Music was the only thing that made her feel alive. And now, with everyone watching, her soul demanded to be heard. At first her fingers stumbled. A wrong note echoed and someone in the crowd laughed. Alexander leaned back in his chair smirking. But then something shifted. Anna closed her eyes, shutting out the glittering chandeliers, the jiggly eyes and the cruel chuckles. She imagined herself back at the orphanage, alone with the piano, and let her heart lead. Her melody that flowed was not from sheet music or training. It was raw, unfiltered emotion. A song that told of loneliness, longing, and a fragile hope that refused to die. The room began to quiet. The laughter faded, replaced by a hush that spread like a ripple across the crowd. One by one, even the most skeptical guests fell silent as Anna's music wove its spell. Her small body swayed with the notes, her eyes still closed, and the sound that filled the room was unlike anything they had ever heard. It wasn't perfect. There were tiny mistakes, uneven rhythms. But the purity of her heart poured through every key she touched. Alexander's smirk faltered. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the little girl, who had dared to turn his mocking challenge into something extraordinary. For the first time in years, he felt something stir deep inside him. Something he thought he had buried under wealth, power and pride. Memories of his own childhood came rushing back. A time when his mother had played the piano for him. Before she passed away, he had locked those memories away, convincing himself that vulnerability was weakness. But Anna's music broke through the walls he had built. When the final note lingered in the air, the silence in the room was overwhelming. No one clapped. No one dared speak. All eyes were on the little girl, who had just turned a cruel game into a moment of truth. She opened her eyes slowly as if waking from a dream, and looked directly at Alexander. For a moment she wasn't a scared orphan. She was a brave soul demanding to be seen. Alexander's throat tightened. He wanted to laugh again, to dismiss what had just happened. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he found himself rising to his feet, his eyes burning with emotions he couldn't control. The room erupted into applause, but Alexander barely heard it. All he could see was Anna, standing there, with her hand still resting on the piano, waiting for an answer. The crowd expected him to continue the joke, to toss out another line and entertain them. But Alexander was no longer in the mood for laughter. In that moment, he realized how empty his life had become. When he finally reached her, he knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. In a voice unsteady but sincere, he whispered, "You've given me something no amount of money could ever buy. From this day forward, you're not alone anymore." Tears welled in Anna's eyes. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe. The applause grew louder, as the guests realized they had just witnessed something unforgettable. But for Anna and Alexander, the world had shrunk to just the two of them. He wrapped his arms around her gently, and she clung to him as if afraid he might disappear. The story didn't end there. Adoption is never simple. It requires time, patience, and commitment. Alexander faced questions from friends and ridicule from those who thought he had gone soft. But he didn't care. For the first time in his life, he had a purpose beyond wealth. Anna too had to adjust. She carried scars from her past. Fears that didn't vanish overnight. But slowly, with Alexander's unwavering support, she began to heal. The piano remained her sanctuary. But now it was no longer a lonely one. She played for him. And sometimes he would sit beside her, awkwardly pressing keys, until they both burst into laughter. Months turned into years, and the bond between them grew unbreakable. Alexander discovered that true wealth was not measured by numbers in a bank account, but by the love you give and the lives you touch. Anna discovered that even the most broken hearts can find family in the most unexpected places. Together they built a new story, one of hope, redemption, and music that would echo through their lives forever. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Stories like these remind us all that no act of kindness, no moment of compassion is ever wasted. And before we close, I'd love to hear from you. If you believe that love can truly change lives, drop a comment below with the words "Love always wins." Because in the end, that is what the story proves. No matter how broken the past, no matter how cold the world may seem, love and kindness still have the power to rewrite destinies.